Okay. Let me fire up the.
I posted it to IRC. In the last day. Anyone in IRC? I am. Did someone click on that link that I posted?
Not him.
I got it.
Oh, he was.
I just want to see if the audio is working okay. Test it. Test it. I can hear stuff.
Yeah, it's just one that's talking.
Can you hear me now? Did you hear anything? Is anyone hearing anything?
Stuff, but it's probably lagging.
Yeah, I'm hearing stuff too.
Can you hear me now?
It's like, I hear the listing stuff.
It's working. Good enough.
That's really
I just got this, can you hear me now?
It says I can run.
I noticed it in the black. It's on there. What's that? Oh. Well, so who can we send? We have like a bigger file that might work. Oh,
Okay. And do I need to do anything with the? Can it be pushed up to Git or emailed to me or something?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. It's not in the. Oh, we're gonna see if it works. Okay, I guess maybe.
Okay. We'll do it live. All right. So I would like to have someone else stand up here with me, but it's okay. I'll do it. One of the one of the projects that we worked on, as you all have probably heard me talk about. So this is basically just wrap up and sort of addressing what was accomplished and what you worked on, and what your future plans are, hopefully, and what kind of follow through you might see from an organization or yourself. You know, where's it going? The other thing that I would like to do is really show off some of the cool stuff that we invented. One of the things that did get all the way done, or is close enough to done that I'm going to just call it done, is the CSV collation component of the project for Rise and for LoRa, which basically lets you map data sets A to B, and anything that's missing from data set A gets highlighted as missing from data set A, and you have an opportunity to correct that mistake and recollate and compare the two data sets. And I can show you how that works. So you can all see my screen there. The pre-session here is loaded as a CSV. This is a real clever little choose file button, the brainchild of Alex, which basically loads. I should mention this is all done in the browser. There's no upload at all. The source code is for this is here. There's no posts anywhere to any database or anything, so we don't have to worry about anonymizing data. And this is virtually identical data. The answers are different, but all of the identifying information about students is incorrect, so or is identical, I should say. So I'm just going to come in here and find my name. This happens to be me as an instructor. Apparently I taught someone something somewhere along the way here this weekend. And I'm comparing set A here at the top, the preset, with set B, and I'm looking for things that are different between the two. And you can see that we have to pick some key identification information here, which this thing, as Dan has said, knows nothing about the data. It just knows that there's data and that it's in columns. And so when you create these three fields, you're identifying your keys. So it will work on anything that's keyed. And I think that that's really cool, because this is something that I do on a fairly or semi-regular basis, is find a CSV data set and outer join on it, which is basically what we're doing in the browser here. I'm going to keep this and actually use this code. So you can see it found examples of code or of rows that are unmatched. So I really think that I probably should have used the DinoBut example here, but because that was just such a source of entertainment for us all through this, but maybe I'll just do that just to illustrate some entertaining utility here. I'm changing the CSV data in a binding using knockout here, which now I've just rematched that data, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do. It showed that as a discrepancy still, because it still doesn't have any teacher named DinoBut in the post. But if we set it to DinoBut over here, that discrepancy is now gone because it matched that AB record. And we can actually roll that back out to a correlated pre-response, which can then be imported, by the way, directly back into the Qualtrics system that generated it. We have the post responses the same way. And then we've done some stuff here with anonymizing the data. So this takes out all of the key column information, what we use to generate a key. We're going to work on that a little bit more. Dan's got some stuff in the work to not necessarily do that all the time. Maybe a third option where you keep the key that you matched on if you want to. But this lets this data set can be given to anyone. So it doesn't matter if we hand it out on the interwebs. No one's going to be able to pick out of that anything that could be hurtful. So that's a very cool, usable, pushable value that's been gleaned from the data set. And that's kind of how far we are. There's a few more things that need to be done with that. The output of these fields is then used to generate some reporting, which Colin's been working on. And this is just a preview. I'm going to log out so you can see that some stuff works. This is just chilling out on a DigitalOcean droplet. And the sign up works, the login works. You guys can all have my email if you want to email me some really excellent. That's not the right password though. Try again. There we go. Eventually, this will provide some useful data. I'm gonna click it. It would be really awesome if Colin, while I was presenting, had fixed this, but I kind of think that's not going to work. So we're getting there. That piece will be finished fairly soon. That'll. Yeah, he's.
His last commit was 9 minutes.
So he's still working on it. He's working on it as I'm speaking. He's probably furiously typing in Vim, which I got a little lesson on last night, and I may need to learn that now because it's quite interesting. I don't know Vim, that's correct. Yes, I'm standing up here in front of all of you. So that's my skill set. This will get done. This is going to present some useful metrics like everybody got question number 12 wrong would be something that would probably need to be evaluated about the question or the class that was taught. If everybody got it wrong, it wasn't taught that year or something.
Does it specify anything about like question type? Like if everyone got multiple choice questions wrong?
They're all multiple choice. This is all multiple choice testing so far. We haven't really touched any of the potentially more complicated. I think that there's some image-based testing that's done and evaluated at some. Yeah, we're just really focusing on the multiple choice, like, is it the right answer? And there's actually a couple of questions that are quite tricksy.
Statistically improbable for everyone to get multiple choice question wrong.
Right, right. And there's lots. I mean, there's lots of standard deviation and all that stuff you can do. You can plot a bell curve or whatever on your results once it's done. This is just sort of a framework to do reporting from. So you're able to take the CSV files that are generated and dump them into something, a useful database. We haven't done any analytics on it currently. There's a little bit of analytics. I've seen like how many questions did a student get right, like raw number at the end of it, but we're still pushing that piece. We got sidetracked a few times and.
I'm trying to see behind you. Okay.
Yep. That'll get cleaned up a little bit, and a lot of stuff will get added to those. I happen to be the proprietor of a reporting engine currently, and I can tell you that writing new reports is a never-ending thing. You can analyze the same data endlessly and glean new things from it all the time, it seems like. But so that's that project. It came out really well, and I think that this piece, the correlation and anonymization piece, is done enough to use, which is really an excellent contribution. And I think that Laura and her group is going to appreciate it. But did you say you have like a grad student that this is all they do? Or so someone spent a week doing what we could do in, I mean, give me a guess.
I don't know exactly how long it's going to take because I haven't generated an output yet. It seems like they're still, with this system, because the data are so messy, they're still going back and forth with the data sets that we have right now, although we figured out some ways that we can collect data in the future and plug it into the system that will be much faster. But my guess is that with an hour of playing around with it, I'll be able to get all of that data matched and sorted out.
So collated in an hour, what took a week? So
plus, if we can get it anonymized in a way where we can, send it.
which one was a piece you were completely missing before, which is now available? Okay, cool.
We actually had people manually a few years ago, like manually putting labels with 9-digit numbers on pieces of paper and scanning them into the computer and having students like manually enter data. That's, we've come along.
Yeah. I
I didn't set up that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you came to us instead of using it ever again. So that's one project done. I'm putting it in the done category. Who's excited? I'm excited. All right. So we had a couple of other projects that I don't think achieved complete status. George was working on robots quite a bit. I'm not sure how far he got. I saw the robot driving around, so somewhere.
Does stuff, it's not a done tag on it.
Yeah. The 211 group has got kind of a search engine, not quite there, but it's doing some stuff. Yeah, can you demo it at all? Is it public? Yeah. Come on up. I'm going to put the camera on you guys, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And you're going on the tubes. The Hall of Mirrors.
So I got an idea a few months ago on, well, I was inspired by the 211 website. It's a service that a lot of people know about that's spread around the community to help people to call in to receive information for services that they need, or to go to the website and use that search engine. But it's not really accessible for a lot of people, and a lot of people that could use it would probably just use Google instead. So I was thinking it'd be a great idea to be able to have something like that that has a lot of services in the area that would be more easy for somebody who rarely uses a computer to use. An older person who goes to the library to get on the computer just to look up crucial information that's hard to find elsewhere. And so our idea was to, yeah.
One really concrete example that Eric actually said something to me about was if you needed help with suicide prevention, you would need to know how to spell suicide exactly. Like if you had any kind of like spelling problem in the word suicide, you weren't getting a result. And so that was like a
relevant terms aren't in there. Like you have to know the exact word that they have. Like,
right.
If you want to say like, I'm gonna kill myself, like that's not in there. You know, you're not gonna get anything.
Right.
And
so it's not contextually aware at all. It's just really, really, it's like a control F on a giant database. It's just really needs, if you're using the current 211. So the approach is a more like natural language, like holistic, like one piece workable unit is the hope, right? I mean, that's the goal.
We actually figured that if there's a database that has different categories in it, and so therefore certain categories are going to be required to display a result. So we figured we can ask, what is your question? And the user can say, oh, I need to find food. It might recognize that, food would be, at a food pantry or something like that. But then there's still the problem of you don't know where they are. So then it can ask, where are you located? And they can type that in. And then it just gains the information in a very personable way instead of throwing back errors that aren't going to make sense at all and just scare people away. So it's really about just trying to make that more usable for anyone of any level of computer understanding.
Right. So something that Ben said about a concrete example of that falling down, like Google search, for example, tries to give you relevant results for where you are. But if you're looking for a service, you might not be looking for a service in the area you are. You might be looking in the area where your grandparents are, and you're trying to help them. So we all know, as as technically savvy people, how to sort of mitigate that issue. We put Brewer in the search that we do to tie it to the city of Brewer, Maine. But this is more like a wizard type driven. So one of the things that it uses to increase relevancy of results was like almost a wizard, right? I mean, this is something we kind of talked about for a minute, but that's a different approach than the way 211 does it. It just gives you, hey, it's in Maine. Or even Google says, hey, I think you're in Brewer or Bangor or whatever. You don't have an easy way for an elderly person to know they should really filter their results a little better. So,
okay, so as he was saying, as I was saying, so basically we went more sort of like the old kind of like the Ask Jeeves type of style where it's kind of like a wizard where you can ask a question, and if there's any sort of like ambiguity in your question or something like that, it might ask some further questions or so. As he was also saying, we had plans to do what pretty much Google does and use like a GeoIP type of idea, so that it would by default try to figure out where you are in your current area, but there would always be an easily accessible button or a link that would allow you to either change your area or to even type that into part of your question, so that it would determine the results based on any location that you had described. And so with the search engine approach, one of the things that we had come across is that the 211 site isn't necessarily the only place that you might be looking for services. So we had come up with the idea to build a sort of web crawler it's built with some algorithms that not necessarily Google is optimized for. The idea that Google is kind of sort of, it's more generic. So and it's pretty powerful, and you can find a lot of different services and such using Google if you really know what you're doing. Sometimes if you're not, I mean, it really depends on the way you word it. And as Justin was saying, there's a lot of stuff that sometimes you end up with kind of results that you don't really want. So the idea here is for us to have a sort of central search engine core that you can integrate, and you can add like some sort of default sort of like types of websites that you would want to crawl, such as like a .us or .org or .gov website, sort of like maybe bangormaine.gov, and the idea would be that these crawlers would just take a look, and it might collect information about like bus schedules or something like that. So when somebody says, hey, I need to get here, maybe it thinks that maybe you're inaccessible or something. So it might look up and it might report information, something like if you needed to get to Orono, it would display like a simple schedule of the Orono community connector bus going to Orono. And the way we kind of do that is that we use what's called Modulicious, which is a web framework built in Perl, but it's a live web framework. So it actually, instead of the user connecting to the site and having it compute some results from some database or so and then stop running, it stays running in the background. And the reason why we did this is because we wanted to make it easily integratable. So like we have this GitHub project, and people can put this Modulicious site on their server, and it has the web crawlers built in and everything all in one little core. And when you run it, the core is responsible for commanding the little web crawlers where they should go. By using an administration interface, you can kind of fine tune them and say, I don't want you to visit these kind of websites, or I want you to target these websites that have sort of these kind of trending keywords. So it gives the administrator sort of more of like a fine-tuned approach to kind of control the results. Then at that same time, it also provides an internal web server, so you don't necessarily need to hook up any sort of crazy CGI or it doesn't pose any kind of security threats outside of the application that the operating system might have in between or whatnot or anything like that. But but that's pretty much the gist of it. So.
Awesome. Very cool.
So I'll just kind of repeat myself. Aaron Ballman, who's here in IRC, was working with the Central Maine Derby data management, and they're trying to collect all of the results of their bouts and statistics, I believe, for the players, goals, things like that. I know nothing about roller derby. Fair disclosure there, full disclosure. But I did know it was called a bout. I learned that this weekend, so +1 to knowledge. He said they've got the database schema solidified, and they're currently working on data entry as a component. And Aaron says that he has been writing PHP and SQL, and the world didn't burn. So I think he and I are both equally surprised by that, because C++ guys don't usually do PHP. I think they get frustrated. Anyone would get frustrated with PHP, right, Michael? Dennis had a project with the bird cutouts, the plywood bird cutouts. You weren't working on that much. How did your bus tracking project come along? Did you, would you mind coming up and just talking to the mic about it a little bit? I know Travis isn't here, but I don't think anyone.
All I can say is they made an app, so it's on GitHub.
Okay, so there's a bus tracking app on our GitHub that is Android specific, made by Travis, which tracks the bus driver so that people can tell where they are, or it just tells people where the buses are. I don't know what are we tracking. It could be both components. It is tracking the phone of the bus driver. So if the bus driver is on it, then we're getting their location data.
There's two
components.
One is for the bus driver to know where to go to pick up the students, which students have called in saying they're not going to be coming in. Which student may say that pick me up at this location instead of my usual location.
Okay.
And so so the bus driver knows the best route to take. It doesn't take unnecessary.
Doesn't go down corridors he doesn't need to normally go down.
Exactly.
Okay.
And from Travis's point of view, his mother is a bus driver
For Sear,
for SEER in
Mhm.
Detroit. And that's one of the items that they have to monitor and hand put into the database so that they know which ones to change.
so that one might get some real use in Detroit.
Yeah, that could, but I do not, again, I don't know where Travis is on that because I wasn't able to set my app up to work. And then the other component is for the students to see where the bus is and
Know if they missed it at least.
know when it's gonna arrive. Both of those would need to incorporate cooperation with the bus driver,
Mhm.
the school, and the students. MIT already has something that does something similar to this, but does not go as far as ours, where the bus driver has a phone and the students have phones, and they track the location of their Android or iPod phone.
Mhm.
And but it doesn't do a lot of monitoring like that.
It doesn't keep track of the route very well.
It doesn't do the tracking that the teacher or the bus driver would want.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about? I know there was a really cool leaderboard app that made a few. No? Nobody wants to talk about leaderboard? Okay. Sorry?
There's the Hackmobile.
Oh, yeah. Hackmobile. Where's Derek? He's not here.
I don't know, it's Derek's pet project.
Well, who's someone that spent some time on the Hackmobile?
I spent a little bit.
Ben, you want to talk about the Hackmobile?
Chris knows.
Okay.
I think Chris already wrote the presentation, and the other Chris is still downstairs. He's very tired. So,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
or he's not downstairs. He's actually in,
Did he-
in the vehicle right now.
Did he fall asleep?
No, he's one of the few.
I think he's still
I
downstairs.
think
Is he awake still?
He's
Do you want me to
still
go get
awake since
Okay.
yesterday. Yeah, he didn't
So,
sleep at all.
I'm just gonna
No, I haven't
for
talked to him. He's gonna take it easy right now. He's
Okay.
kind of
little woozy or something.
Yeah.
For posterity's sake, I'm just going to say that two people, Sean Harrington and Chris, do we know his last name? Chris Roberts,
yes. That's right.
both made it all the way through the night into the now. It's 10:48. We'll just pretend he's still awake. I'm pretty sure he's down there asleep, but no one's watching him. He's sleeping.
He was repairing electronics on my bus when I
Okay.
was.
So there's a pretty cool Hackmobile that he's been working on. And now this gentleman, Chris.
All right. So the Hackmobile was Derek's Derek's sort of, pet project, and I believe you're also in on that. What Derek wanted to be able to do, his main goal for today, or for Civic Hack Day, was to implement a system wherein you could just pull up to any place that has open Wi-Fi, and it would automatically latch on and sort of rebroadcast it under its own SSID or network name. And we were able to get that going. I got to be fully honest, I didn't do a lot of work on this project, but I have a sort of overview understanding of how it works. So what we rigged up was we used a WRT 54G router running DDWRT, which is a custom firmware. It allows you to do some pretty cool stuff. And we used that to actually provide the new SSID for the Hackmobile. And the system that actually latches onto any open Wi-Fi it finds is a Raspberry Pi hooked up to a very powerful Wi-Fi antenna mounted on the roof of the Hackmobile. And it uses a Ruby script called Portal Smash. It automatically scans through a list of the list of Wi-Fi networks that it finds. And
This is a customization, right? So you want to mention that
yes,
you customized Portal Smasher to
Yeah,
sort
it
by
was-
signal strength.
yes. Because by default, what Portal Smash does is when it scans for Wi-Fi networks, it does it based on name. So it'll latch onto sometimes it'll latch onto a network that is alphabetically, higher on the list, but has a terrible signal. And you get a really crappy connection, but you do have some connection, so it doesn't skip to the next network, and that's suboptimal. So what Chris Roberts did, and I'm sure somebody else or a couple other people helped, is he modified Portal Smash to actually sort by signal strength instead of just by name. So that helped quite a bit. And what Portal Smash does is it hooks into whatever open Wi-Fi network it finds, tries to get an IP address. And if it gets an IP address, great. Then it tries to verify that it has a net connection. And it does that repeatedly. Verifies that it has a net connection so that if it drops, it can just go to the next network. But if it can't get an address because of like a captive portal agreement or whatever, because if you pull up in front of McDonald's and connect to their Wi-Fi, you have to go through and, you know, hit like a button and it hijacks your connection until you actually hit that button and you don't get an IP. What Portal Smash does is it grabs the captive portal form and then it just mashes the crap out of all the buttons it finds and hopes that one of them gives it an IP. And it works really well. Except when it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it crashes. And it crashes a lot. So what Chris Roberts did is he wrote a supervisor sort of script so that when Portal Smash crashes, it just restarts it instantly. And he also added Portal Smash to the startup portion of the RPi so that, you know, if you have to reboot the Raspberry Pi, you can be back online in like a minute. So it's very cool, and I believe that's just pretty much it.
Again, everything's on GitHub, I think.
Yes.
All committed. So if you want your very own portal smashing device, the how-to is available. Anybody else want to talk about anything that they worked on or anything that was really cool that they saw? No? All right. Good? We done? All right, I'm calling it. Good job, everybody.